In this video, I'm going to tell you how to maintain your weight loss after losing the weight. If you want to control what you eat, control your body, and control your life, then hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video. The only thing harder than losing the weight is actually maintaining it. A lot of people struggle with this. They do really well when they lose it, and then they hit that goal weight, and then it's like an even harder struggle to keep it. Why is that? Because your body's fighting to return to that previous weight. This is especially true if you lose weight too fast. So if you haven't watched my previous videos on why you shouldn't lose weight fast, you should watch that first and then come back and watch this. You should also watch my previous video on how to get started with weight loss and how to lose that first pound without regaining it. The number of people who regain the weight after losing the weight is staggeringly high. It's like 80-90%. Probably because they're not losing the weight the right way, but also because they're not taking measures to make sure that they don't regain it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how not to regain it. The first tip I have for you is keep track of your weight, measure your body, feel your clothes. You need to have some sort of feedback mechanism. You're probably weighing yourself when you were on your weight loss journey. Otherwise, you wouldn't know when you reached your goal. But don't stop doing that once you reach your goal. In fact, it's even more important once you reach it. You need to keep an eye on it because what happens is you ignore the scale, you ignore the measurements, you start wearing slightly larger clothes and you pretend that everything is okay and that you're not regaining the weight. Well, the only way to prevent that is keep an eye on the scale. Don't do it every day. I used to weigh myself every day and I realized that it was causing me all of this psychological distress because I would see the number go up and down, up and down, up and down. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gaining weight again. There's just daily fluctuations that I can't explain. Maybe food, water, air, I don't know. But don't do it every day. But you need to keep an eye on the scale once or twice a week. And I also recommend that you measure your body with the tape measure at least once a month. I like to do every 2 weeks. So don't take it too far, but you need to keep track of your body and your weight. My next tip for you is to monitor internal hunger cues. Eating by hunger is something that we don't do very well anymore, probably because we have so many external cues telling us when to eat, when not to eat. We have all this information. We have people like me telling you how to eat, although I try not to do that too much. But we have so much information, and we have clocks, and we have meetings, and we have social events. It's like we eat for all the reasons except internal hunger. Well, we need to get back to that. You need to just eat when you're really hungry and when you absolutely need it. You'd be surprised when you try this because you think that if you follow your hunger, you're gonna eat all this stuff and you're gonna binge. That's not true at all. You're so used to not eating according to hunger that you don't know what it's like to do that. Eat according to hunger for a few days and see how little that you actually eat. Make sure you eat foods that are actually satisfying and nourishing. Make sure you're not eating a ton of processed stuff. That's really easy to overeat, by the way, and it's really easy to regain the weight if you eat processed food. My next tip for you is minimize processed foods. You know what I'm talking about: chips, cookies, ice cream. I'm not saying you should never have it again, but it's super easy to overeat that stuff. You take a few bites and the next thing you know, you've had 300-400 calories and you think you've only had 100 or 200. It's really easy to underestimate portions of that kind of food. If in doubt, just don't eat it at all, or just eat enough to taste. That's what I do. So if I want to try something, whether it's like let's say it's a cookie, or I don't need to eat the whole cookie. I can take 1 or 2 bites, get the flavor. It's like, wow, that's great, and then eat the rest later. Or if it's the same with candy, it's Halloween season right now. There's candy everywhere. You walk into the stores and there's just this whole end display of candy. I don't need to eat 10 pieces of candy. In fact, I've had so much candy in my life, I don't need another piece to know what it tastes like. So I don't need an entire bag of it. I can have 1 or 2 pieces, move on, keep doing what I need to do. But overall, you need to minimize processed food. I'm talking about the stuff that has a lot of oil and a lot of sugar all in one. So Halloween candy, perfect example. Usually that stuff has a really high density, 400, 500, 600 calories per 100 grams. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you need to minimize. Focus on foods that have a lower caloric density, lower in fat, lower in sugar, lower in oil. I'm not saying that you should eliminate fat completely. 20 to 30% of your diet should be fat. That seems to work for most people. Don't go crazy with fat. Don't add cream and butter to everything. I know what the keto advocates are telling you. Trust me, you don't want to do that. You're just making your diet denser and you're making weight regain even easier. My next tip for you is always remember your why and where you came from. Why did you lose this weight in the first place? Why did you go on this adventure? When you connect with your values and reconnect with your vision and connect with your why, it's a lot easier to make smarter decisions. Don't just think about your why when you're losing the weight. Remember your why when you're actually at your destination. Never forget it. You probably had good reasons to lose it. Maybe it was for your health. Maybe you wanted to return to some activities. Maybe you wanted to get off some medications, whatever it was. Never forget that why. Just because you're at your destination doesn't mean that you should forget it. My next tip for you is consistent exercise. This is really important because what we know from research and what we know from the data is that people who lose weight without exercising tend to regain it more than people who lose the weight while exercising. It is true that exercise is not a good way to lose the weight, but it is a good way to maintain the weight. When you look at people who don't regain the weight, they consistently exercise. It's one of the few common attributes of people who lose and maintain the weight. People who lose the weight and then don't have any sort of exercise regimen, it's really easy for them to regain it. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's metabolic rate or lack of muscle. I'm not sure quite exactly why, but you need to be exercising, even if exercising doesn't help you lose the weight. And really it doesn't, because you're not burning that much. But what we know from the research is that if you start exercising now, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain that weight when you're at your destination. And when I'm talking about exercise, you need a combination of resistance training, like weights or bands or, body weight, whatever, and cardio. In fact, when you're doing resistance training, you're getting a little bit of cardio, so you're kind of getting both, but you don't want to do just the elliptical 45 minutes a day. You need to change it up a little bit. I do Stairmaster, I run, sometimes I swim, and I also like to walk uphill. I also do a variety of resistance training. It's just when you combine resistance training and cardio, you're going to get the best effects. You definitely need to be doing some sort of exercise to maintain your muscle mass. You don't want to lose your muscle mass, or you just don't want to lose that much when you're losing weight. The fact is, you're going to lose a little bit, but you want to attenuate that a little bit. And the best way to do that is to lift some heavy stuff. My next tip for you is don't binge or overeat. This seems obvious, but I thought I would throw that in. If you haven't already, watch my previous videos on how not to binge and how not to overeat. Those would be very helpful videos. But obviously, if you start binging and overeating, you're going to regain that weight really fast. I remember when I lost 40 pounds in about 4 or 5 months and I started to binge again, I regained that weight in about the same amount of time. It didn't take that long. So you really need to be careful. You need to interrupt those cues and interrupt those patterns and interrupt those thoughts so that you don't return to your old ways. Remember, it's overeating and binge eating that made you gain the weight, and if you lose it and you start binging and overeating again, you're going to regain it really fast. This seems like a no-brainer, but I need to mention it. Most people aren't going to regain the weight because they eat a little bit too much every day. Even if you did, it would be a lot easier to lose the weight again. It's when you start binging and overeating and the weight comes back really fast. That's when you start to lose control. That's when you start yo-yo dieting. My next tip for you is somewhat unconventional, but adopt a new identity. And here's what I mean. You need to see yourself as a thin person or as a lean person. Just tell yourself over and over that you eat very little, or you like to move fast, or you really like exercise, you like movement. See yourself as an athlete. This is what I told myself when I was losing weight. I would just say, you know what? I don't like large portions of food. I don't like junk food anymore. I don't like fast food. I don't like soft drinks. I don't like buffets. I like to have an empty stomach. I like to feel light and loose, and I want to be able to run at any minute. And if I have a ton of food in my stomach, I'm not going to be able to do that. I just saw myself as a lean, fit person. I know it sounds kind of like woo-woo and whatever, but I get this from Psycho-Cybernetics from Dr. Maltz. He wrote this about 60 years ago, and he said, if you just change your self-image, your perception. I forget the exact word that he used. I'll put it in the description box below. But he said, if we just change the way we see ourselves, then we start to change the way that we behave, and then we get a different outcome. I think Dr. Maltz was on to something, because it definitely works. When you just see yourself as somebody different, you start to get better results. I don't believe in like metaphysical stuff, but I'm definitely like a materialist, and I like to feel things, touch things, test things, but this one definitely works. If you see yourself as an unfit fat person, that's probably what you're going to be. My last tip for you is to wear smaller clothes. You need to get feedback. I actually get this one from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said that when he had really tiny calves, he had like big chest and then these tiny calves, he would wear clothes that accentuated those calves. I don't know what it was, but he would wear things that reminded him what he needed to improve. So when I was overweight, I would wear some of my old clothes and I would feel the how tight it was, or wear one of my old like undershirts and it would feel really tight. It was giving me feedback. You don't want to wear big clothes. You don't want to wear sweatpants all the time. You don't want to wear the, what do you call it, like the Fabletics or whatever, because it's not going to give you that feedback. It's elastic, it's going to stretch, and it's going to deceive you. Oh, you know, my clothes still fit. Well, wear something tight. Wear something that you've worn before. So if you want to wear, let's say 34-inch jeans, and right now you're wearing 38-inch jeans, wear like a 36 and just get that feedback. I know this sounds kind of stupid, but you need some sort of feedback mechanism: the scale, the body measurements, the clothes. My point is, you don't want to lie to yourself and you don't want to ignore the data and just pretend that everything is okay. Okay, this was a slightly shorter video, but I thought it was really critical, and I thought it was a sequel to the previous video on how to start your weight loss journey, because you need to know what to do when you finally reach your destination. Remember, losing the weight is actually the easy part. Maintaining it is the hard part, but if you follow these tips, it's going to be a lot easier, and you're not going to have to lose the weight again. That's the worst thing. Lose it once and never lose it again. This video would not be possible without Focus Me. Focus Me eliminates distractions and increases my focus, so I can just focus on making these videos. If you want more focus and fewer distractions, then type in the promo code, which you can see on the screen. I also want to thank Essetino Artists. If you need help with graphic design, YouTube SEO, Camtasia, or online course creation, or fulfillment by Amazon or Etsy, contact Overeat and Jewel. I have put their URL in the description box. IamDreamDriven.com. And don't forget to check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.